Hey guys, so this video is going to be geared more towards beginner pilots or someone that's looking to get into the sport. It's by no means replacement for some proper training, but to help you along in the process. If you're thinking about getting training, you could maybe kind of dabble in some of these areas. If you have a wing and a kiting harness, you could kind of do some of these things on your own to practice to see if it's a sport that you think you might be interested in or have kind of a knack for. These are going to be some just pro tips that I would suggest to try to help you in that progress, or if you have just started off training, or if you want to kind of learn a little bit before you go get the training, this would be something that might be helpful for you. So I'm going to just kind of go ahead and play some of the clips, and then I'm going to pause, cut in, and exactly explain what we're doing here. I've got my buddy Bart that was helping me out, as well as my girlfriend, to try to demonstrate some of the techniques. So I hope you guys enjoy the video and find it useful, and let's get to it. Alright, to start off, I should describe exactly how your risers are set up. So this is off of a Power Atlas I borrowed from my buddy Bart. Graciously, he does not know it, but he wouldn't mind, I'm sure. So this is what every wing is going to look like, unless you have risers with a different number of lines. But the majority of them have 4 sets of lines like this, starting with your A's, which is the front leading edge of the wing. Then you've got your B's, your C's, and your D's. Working your way back makes sense. At the very end is where your brake toggles are attached, and those head up to the back of the wing. And when you pull down on your brake, it actually cups the back of the wing down, slowing and creating drag on that side, causing you to turn in that direction. That is the fundamentals of how it works. Right here you have your trim adjustment. Not all wings have this, but most paramotor wings do. As you pull it in, that will slow the wing down, bringing the back end down on the wing as well. It will help create a little bit more lift under power. However, it will slow your forward movement down in the same sense. So when you go to clip in, these will always be at the very front facing forward when you're in your launch position. If you are clipped in to your carabiner, this is going to be facing the direction you're going to be running. This should all be perfectly in line when you raise your risers up. This will be facing the very front. Let me clip in and show you exactly what I'm talking about. Alright, so now that I've got my paramotor on, this is what it's going to look like. On these air conceptions, you have to be careful here. These oftentimes want to do this scenario when you go to stand up, so always make sure that that is down there properly like it's supposed to be, and that these aren't twisted around in a funny fashion. Sometimes they get twisted all the way around. You'll have this wrap, so you'll just want to make sure that that is always straightened up. Everything should be clear and free moving. Make sure there's not any twists or tangles. Okay, so when you go to pick up your risers, you should always have the A's to the outside, like so. So your brake toggles will be pointed inward. And then you stand inside of them, inside of your risers. Put your thumbs to the outsides. Reach down and pick them up like so. And then rotate your thumbs all the way inward. And then that should be the correct orientation for clipping in. As you can see, my brake line is now facing forward as you go down from here. So if you have your carabiner in line, this should be a straight line. You should get to your trim adjustment, and then your brake toggle should be right there. So we'll do the same for this side. Straight in line to your riser. Make sure your riser or your trim is set at the correct launch position. Straight to your brake. Make sure the brake is clear to pulley. From here, clear to pulley. And then what you do is you grab your brakes off, you go out and around, and you collect your A's with your thumbs. There we have our A's. And then, let me just stow this other side so I can demonstrate. So from this position right here, when I lift this up, notice how now my A is pointing forward. The direction I would be running is that way. My A is pointing that way. So this is my A, straight down, pointing that direction. And then always check your A, make sure it is clear to the front leading edge of the wing. And that is your clip-in. Pretty simple. Always good to double check yourself, make sure that that is doing exactly what you want it to, and that you don't have any line twists. Okay, for the throttle, I recommend a left-handed throttle. That way you can do more things with your right hand. It's easier to grab reserve if you have to toss with your right hand, if you're right hand dominant. Now, if you're left hand dominant, obviously I would probably switch it up and do right hand throttle. It might seem counterproductive at first, but trust me, in the long run, it is super nice to have your dominant hand free, not having to pull throttle. This is not that tricky of a thing to do. It's something you want to get used to before you fly anyways. Really feel out the motor, get used to how it responds to throttle inputs. That way you get really comfortable with the process before you launch. Okay, so now that we're clipped in, right before launch, we collect our brake. Like I said, go around and collect our A. So we're to that position. Now, it's a little bit funky. I always just grab with one finger my brake. Now you can do it a different way if you want to. However, you have to remember you have to be able to squeeze your throttle. And it really doesn't require much brake input on launch. It's more of a foot control, direction on the ground that is important. Body movement is much more important for correcting wing on the ground than brake inputs. If you do too much brake input, you'll end up spinning the glider or stalling it or something like that, because you don't have enough forward motion most of the time to be able to do a lot with the brakes. So it's more of a body positioning. So we've got our A and our thumb, brake tied, wrapped around our finger here. This is our launch position. I collect the two together like so, and then we're ready to take off. Now, hold the risers. This is a very important thing. A lot of people naturally want to push the risers forward. Never do that. Ever, ever, ever. Always back as far as you possibly can. Pull those shoulder blades back, holding your A's. Always pull this as tight, directly up and back as you can. Otherwise, you will cause a frontal collapse on your wing. If you push this forward, it'll cause the front to come up, and then it'll collapse, and it'll land either on your propeller or just behind you or whatever. It's not a good idea. So always directly straight up. I grab right next to the malleon here on my A, straight up, and pull those shoulders back as far as possible. It should be uncomfortable. If it's not uncomfortable, you're not trying hard enough. So pull that back as far as possible. That is the correct launch position. So you want to stand very proud, arms pinned back as far as you possibly can. Deep breath. Take a couple steps back. Depending on the glider, if you're launching a fast glider, you'll probably be just tight with the wing. However, this video is more geared towards beginners, so you'll be taking a few steps back so that you can get a pretty good running start to bring that wing up, because beginner gliders usually don't want to launch quite as fast. They don't have a tend to overshoot. They have a tend to hang behind you. So take a few steps back, and then you're going to run forward as hard as you possibly can, just keeping those A's very, very tight. Now, you'll see this in a minute when I show you the clip, but the idea is you want to bring that wing up, and as soon as you can tell that your wing is flying enough, you will let go of the A's. As long as you keep these A's super tight and super far back, you should be able to hold on to them indefinitely. Now, naturally, they should just kind of come out of your hands. You should be able to pull that wing up until you know you've got it, and as long as you've got that pinned up in the position that the wing is going to fly naturally in with the riser, you don't have to let go. It's recommended you just let go. That way, if you have to do any type of movement to check things, you don't accidentally affect what your wing is doing by holding on to those risers anymore. So you'll take a few steps back, arms pinned back as far as possible, holding the A's up and tight. You'll run forward. Try to keep an upright position as much as possible. That's very important. Keep a very upright position as much as possible. And then as soon as that wing comes up, we'll show you in the video exactly about where you want the wing to be positioned before you drop the riser. And then once your wing is flying overhead, you can be completely off that. And then it's just down to power, brakes, get the wing under control before you ever launch. And then just power, 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 and take off into the sky. That's the principle.
The name, Scary Berry.
Can you get a close-up of this situation here? I'm wanting to show how this... All right, so here we are just demonstrating how to properly bring up the wing to try to clear the lines. Now, this isn't something you have to do, but this is a good way that I like to do it, especially if I have enough of a breeze before launching. It just makes sure that that way you have all of your lines cleared.
How
much have you had to drink?
Just one glass.
Oh, that's all it took, huh?
Is that what you wanted?
Well, okay, how about like a side view now? Now that what you've done is fine. Can you show both where both my hands are?
Hi, buddy.
So for this technique, you are going to be taking your left hand and placing them on your brakes if you are right hand dominant, and then you will use your right hand to grab a hold of the A's, which is the front of the risers for the leading edge of the wing. On this Ozone wing, they are red, but on different wings, they are different colors, so don't use that as a for sure thing. However, they are opposite the side that has the brake toggles. So the rear is where my left hand is, the rear of the risers with the brakes. And then on the front, I am grabbing the A's with my right hand. Okay, then I'll step back and I'm going to bring it up and clear it, okay? So I can finish it. Move that. Well, it'll be fine, actually. Don't even worry about it. It's going to be side view, though, but sorry, because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing with my hands. Not that close to side.
Right, this is all somatic.
Somatic. Okay, so I'm not sure if you caught that, but I used my right hand grabbing the A's to guide the wing up as I moved backwards into the wind. And then my left hand, as you can see, is holding the brake toggles in the rear of the risers, and that's to control how quickly the wing goes up, as well as kind of keep it cupped so you don't pull too much on the front A's. Now you can control the wing in this position by twisting your arms counterclockwise and clockwise to control the direction that it wants to turn. And then when you go to set down the wing, what you want to do is pull on your left hand in my case, or your brake toggles, as well as walk towards the wing when you go to set it on the ground. Bring her back down. She's a little crooked. So I'm walking towards the wing now and letting the A's move forward and pulling the brake toggles towards me, because you want the leading edge of the wing to be farther away from you so that it lays out basically like it shows right there. Not my best, not too bad. I don't think you're.
What do you want to capture in this?
I was wanting to capture the laydown.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, we'll do one more, okay?
Yep.
So now I'm going to move towards the wing, as you saw right there, and my right hand is now farther in front of my left hand, closer towards the wing, and that allows that leading edge to lay out properly, and then you pull your left hand with the brakes towards your body, and that helps bring that trailing edge of the wing closer towards you, so you get your wing nicely laid out, just like that. So for this portion, we've got my girlfriend clipped in. Her A's are being held between her fingers there, as you can see, and she has her brake toggle in her hand. The correct clipped in position should look like this, where you have, following straight down your risers, you will run into your trim setting and your brake toggle. If you are not looking at it like that, something is incorrect. Always a good check is to hold the risers over your hands and walk forward, and then check to make sure that your A's are straight back to the front of the wing, and that when the carabiners are in the upright position like that, there is a clear path from that position straight back to the front of the wing without any twists. If that is not what you're looking at when you have yourself clipped in, there is something incorrect. Okay, so now that you're all clipped in, we're going to go ahead and show how this launch should look. I've got it slowed down a bunch so I can walk you through it. So the most critical thing here is holding those risers as far out as you possibly can. Hold them, pull your shoulders back and hold those A's straight up. Do not push your hands forward. Always hold them back towards the cage of the motor as far back as you can. It's going to strain your back trying to pull your shoulder blades together, and hold those A's all the way up and tight against the carabiners. So there should be a lot of tension between the carabiner where your riser is clipped in and your fingers where you're holding the A's. Okay, running forward as the wing comes up, keep those hands up, do not press them forward. Wait for the wing to come overhead and then begin to release the A's. Just there, she released the A's. Alright, one issue I noticed here is she starts to twist her entire body to check her wing, something you want to make sure you don't do. That cage should always stay parallel with the wing. If you turn your head, that's okay, but I suggest you just twist it on a pivot and make sure that your shoulders maintain straight with the wing as well, and that will keep your motor and your wing aligned. Now, I can't say for certain, but as you can see, the wing is kind of twisting as it comes down, which is probably partially because of the way that she has her body oriented. But the wing is ultimately dropping because she doesn't have enough forward motion for the amount of wind we had that day when she was doing this. So one thing you want to keep in mind, if you're launching on a nil wind day, you are going to want to have some power, some thrust before the wing starts to drop back to help you run faster so that you can keep that wing up. Alright, so here's another example of a launch, running forward, wing starts to come up. So you'll notice right here she drops her A on her right hand side, but she starts to pull brake on that side as well. I'm sure it's unconscious. But she is doing the correct motion with her body to try to follow the wing. That is something that's extremely critical. I believe because she dropped the A on the right hand side, it never came up fully, and she is struggling to try to correct the direction she has to now head with that wing. She does a great job, as you'll see in a second here, but dropping that right hand A, I think, was the biggest issue, and she started to initiate brake on that side as well, I'm sure, not noticing that she was doing it. And there you can see her right hand is out quite a bit. Like I said, she was trying to correct it, and I'm sure she just wasn't aware of what she was doing there. So that is why her right hand side of the glider is actually stalled and spinning as much as it is, and she wasn't able to get it under control. Honestly, she did an amazing job of recovering what she had, but if she would have kept that hand up, she probably could have saved the whole thing. So it's always good to go ahead and record yourself when you're doing some launches like this or some fake launches like this, because you can really find a lot out about what's going on. Alrighty guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. This is by no means a substitution for getting some actual proper training with like a licensed trainer. However, if you've already done training or if you're getting some training and it doesn't seem to be working out, hopefully some of these tips will help you guys along in the progress, or this would be something that would honestly be good to practice before you go get training. That way it kind of speeds the process along. Hopefully it was really useful for people out there trying to do this. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. I plan on making more videos in a series to kind of go over a lot of the common mistakes that are made and things that I think will help you in the progress along on the way. So hit the subscribe button and give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below. Like I said, if you have any questions at all, I'll be sure to get them answered, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.